We're glad to have you back. Now, the workforce in Nigeria serves as a catalyst for innovation and entrepreneurship, driving forward initiatives that foster creativity, productivity, and competitiveness. Given the annual International Workers' Day celebration, experts are calling on government to, at all levels, recognize and harness the potential of its human capital to unlock new opportunities for growth and sustainable development. And according to them, through strategic investments in education, skills development, social welfare programs, the country can empower its workforce to drive inclusive economic growth and a prosperous nation. Let's get talking now. I introduced him earlier. He's a former president of the Trade Union Congress, and also former president of PENGASSAN, Petroleum and Natural Gas Senior Staff Association of Nigeria. Mr. Peter Esele, good afternoon. It's good to have you on the program. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Thank you for having me.
Good. It's another... okay, yesterday was May 1st, but we are still in the season of celebration, celebrating labor. I want to ask you, what really, to you, will be your assessment of Nigerian workers and, of course, their contribution to nation building over time?
If you ask me to assess the average Nigerian worker right now, I think this is a very tough time for the Nigerian worker right now, because his pay package can actually take him home, and he's facing a lot of trials and tribulation right now. But again, I still say we must never give up hope. We will I always say that I prefer the glass half full rather than half empty. So as the movement will always say, Aluta, continue. We just have to keep moving, keep working, keep doing our best. And without the worker, there's nothing will happen. So business is also, I listened to Mr. Muda's earlier talk about central bank intervening in the forex market. That's also the same way you expect government to intervene in the life of the Nigerian worker, because the employer and the employee, the employer and the employee's relationship is symbiotic. One cannot do without the other.
But now, let's move quickly to see that Labour is saying that 30th, I think 30th of this month is another new deadline for the new minimum wage. Now, let's talk about this minimum wage thing and living wage. Which is which? Which do you think is the way to go at this time? Also considering what government is facing, grappling with an economy that is just trying to get itself back to normal.
You see, the first thing you expect of government, let's talk about the minimum wage and the living wage. Minimum wage means the baseline. The baseline, nobody should live below that. That's the baseline. And you all know that so many people live below even the current minimum wage right now. Not all state governors are paying that. I think of the 36 states, I think about 22 or 23, thereabout have complied. And you know how many, and this last minimum wage have expired. It's 5 years. In 5 years, not only 36 states have actually complied. Now, when we talk about living wage, is also whatever you are earning, what can it do for you? How sustainable is it to you? Can it take care of your shelter? Can it take care of your rent? Can it take care of your transportation? Can you take care of your health care? So if you have all of that, then it becomes a living wage. And would I expect government to wake up and say, oh, minimum wage from now on to be 1 million naira? I think we are going to have a galloping inflation if we have to go that route. So how do you expect government to find that balance? Because what you have now is Labour giving a deadline. The deadline, I have been there. So when Labour gives you a deadline, the meaning of that is that please, let's talk. If they want to go on strike, they would have as well gone ahead and said tomorrow we are going on strike. That's also to tell you that we don't want to go on this strike. But please come, let's talk. So between now and the end of May, government has more than 3 weeks to have that conversation going, and then to also bring this minimum wage conversation to a close. And then government also need to decide which aspect or which area of the average worker or Nigerian, let me just use the word Nigerian, let's leave the worker out of this, is which area do we intervene? More than 40% of of current earnings go for transport. I'm just being conservative there. The last estimates are talking about 70%. So that's an area that I expect government to intervene. So you also look at education. You just made reference to education earlier on. So if government can intervene in that area of education, healthcare, and transportation, because no economy grows without movement of goods and services. So if you don't have all of that, nothing is going to happen. So if you are able to achieve that, what Labour is asking yesterday is made reference to about 600 and something thousand naira as minimum wage. But that tells you if Labour says it's 600 and something thousand, that does not mean government is going to accept 600 and something thousand. No. It's Labour bringing a proposal to the table, which will be deliberated upon by government and NECA, which is the Employers Consultative Association. So when you have government employees and employers sitting down, then they will also have to look at this and decide that, okay, this is the way to go. This is what we can afford. And this is what is acceptable, backed by data.
Very interesting. But let's talk industrial relations. Many will expect that despite all of these issues, the handshake between government and labor should be something that we'll see a partnership, together at this time. Because everyone agreed at the time that subsidies should go. And also opening up the market, that's the foreign exchange market. This was an argument that went for long. Now it has happened. I want to ask you, are you one of those that think that there should have been proper planning to address the fallout of some of this policy instituted by this administration?
Of course. If you also look at it, I think Labour has also been very, very magnanimous in how they handled this administration. And I've also accused Labour before that I think the Buhari administration was given too many leeway, and the Buhari administration went away with so much, a lot of things that would have been done by the last administration that was left undone, and Labour did nothing about it. So what we have now is that Labour saying, okay, it's still the same political party, so they need to fix it. So now, this administration knew they were going to take away subsidy. This administration knew they were going to float the currency. So it's the responsibility of this administration to mitigate the challenges that will arise from all of that. So what we have now are these challenges of subsidy removal. And when subsidy is taken off, so how have we been able to mitigate the effect of this challenge on the ordinary worker or on the ordinary Nigerian? It's not just the federal government. I've always emphasized that Nigerians pay attention so much to the federal government. We should have an omnibus plan. Whatever is agreed, federal government of Nigeria have always paid, whether from Obasanjo to Tinubu. I still expect the Tinubu administration to pay whatever that has been agreed on the minimum wage. The challenge we are facing in Nigeria is actually the challenge of the state and local government. It is not, I keep emphasizing it in both private and public, that is not the responsibility of the federal government to provide public transportation. It is the responsibility of the state and local government to provide public transportation. What the federal government have done since the removal of subsidy is each state government now get 2.5 of revenue. So what we should also be able to ask the state governors and the state government and the local government, what are they doing with that revenue? That's why you heard me talk about omnibus plan. The plan must be between federal, state, and local government working together to say, okay, this is what we want to do in the issue of transportation. This is what we want to do in the issue of healthcare. This is what we want to do in the issue of education. People forget, primary education is the responsibility of the local government. Secondary education is the responsibility of the state government. And then the tertiary education is the responsibility of the federal government. So we must be able to also define their roles and responsibility and know who to cry to at every point in time.
Nigerians, and I'll tell you that in some cases we've heard people saying, we've lost confidence in labor. There have been issues where they expected the labor unions to stand firm for Nigerians. Remember when there was currency scarcity and, of course, fuel scarcity even before this present one. And many will say most times we see labor out is always when it's minimum wage issues and and all of that. Also, we had electricity hike about 300 to 400% for Band A customers, and we've not heard anything directly from NLC. So do you think that Nigerians still believe so much in this movement? Let me use that, comrade. This movement, do you think so?
Yes, I think so, that Nigerians still believe in the movement. I will tell you, you elect people to occupy an office. You elect the president, you elect deputy president. The same thing goes on in NLC, TUC. People are elected. But when you have someone who's at the helm of affairs and is having what I call dereliction of duty, you cannot put that on the entire movement. I'll give you an example. I too was disappointed. That's why I use the phrase that the last administration was giving too much leeway. In terms of the currency currency change or whatever they did, I too was disappointed that Labour kept quiet throughout all of those challenges. And underneath that was political undertone, which I didn't like the fact that Labour was quiet and people went through hell at the end of the day. But that does not mean you are going to, you will say the people have lost confidence in the movement. There are a lot of Nigerians who pay from their salary every month to have that movement move. So movement, they are not from Mars. Let's not deceive ourselves. NSC, TUC are not from Venus. They are Nigerians just like you and I. And they are also part and parcel of whatever is going on in the system. They are part of the consciousness of the country. You don't give what you don't have. So everybody gives what he or she has. So the challenges we are facing is not a challenge that you fought the institution. NSC, TUC is an institution. So when you have individuals driving that institution, you will not come around and say, oh, we have lost faith in the institution. Our democracy that we have, is it faultless? No. Is democracy that we have, is it perfect? No. But do we now say because democracy is not giving us what we want, that we should throw the baby out the bathwater? No. But as we always say, development is work in progress.
Interesting. 615,000 is what Labour mentioned yesterday. I think, if I'm correct, Comrade Esele, this 615,000. If this happens, what will happen to inflation? What would happen moving? But how feasible is this? Do you think that government can work around, despite subsidy removal, despite increase in federal allocation? Do you think this is achievable?
Tolu, it's a negotiation. Labour can come up and tell you I want to pay 10 million naira minimum wage. I'll give an example. I was one of those that negotiated 18,000 naira minimum wage, and the demand was 57,000 naira minimum wage.
Okay.
So that was all put on the table. Well, put on the table. But when data, informal sector, NECA, we all met to look at the various data and statistics before us, and then we arrive at 18,000 naira. So when Labour is asking for 615,000 naira, they're not putting guns to the head of the government to pay 615,000 naira. No, it's subject to negotiation. The Labour can as well go ahead and say, we demand 10 million naira. It's subject to negotiation. There's nothing wrong with that. So let's sit down, talk, have a conversation.
Interesting stuff. But some states are already coming out to do theirs. I think Edo has already announced an amount. So what about all of this? Does it not work? Are we not working at cross purposes when some states are already saying, this is what I can pay, and we want the federal government to pay this? Federal government has already come up with a 35% increase for federal civil servants.
What the federal government is doing is support. Federal government said wage increase.
Okay.
So what you have, yes, when federal government uses that word wage increase, it didn't say this is the new national minimum wage. What federal government is saying, even if I read the release was about, challenges that the Nigerian worker is going through right now. So fine, that's the support. So whatever is agreed as a minimum wage, they can also go ahead and deduct all of this at the end of the day. But be that as it may, that's what federal government is doing. Then let us now look at Enugu. Enugu also did similar thing, but the Enugu state governor, which of course I'll give some flowers to, said whatever I'm giving now is just to support you. That whatever the federal government agrees, we will comply. That whatever come out of the let me just quote the governor. Say whatever come out of the tripartite meeting going on in Abuja, that the Enugu state government will comply, and that was fantastic. Now let's look at Edo. Edo also said Edo zone is also support. But you and I know that along the way, something always happens when election is looking around the corner. So it's also good. I'm not going to condemn what the Edo state governor is doing. It's also good.
Does that
whatever is giving,
that look like a political goal?
So whatever is given.
Go ahead,
whatever
please.
is given, but let us also commend the Edo state governor, even if some people are saying that election is around the corner. That's why the governor is doing it. Yeah. But for me, it's better for him to care for the worker than not to care at all. And then you look at Lagos. You look at a state like Lagos. Lagos has always been the flag bearer. When I was negotiating 18,000 naira minimum wage, the Lagos state government did not pay 18,000 naira. The Lagos state government paid 20,000 naira. They went above the minimum wage. So when Sanwo-Olu announced 70,000 naira, I didn't read anything to it because I know that is what Lagos is known for. And I'm still very convinced that if at the end of the tripartite meeting, whatever is agreed, that Governor Sanwo-Olu will also comply.
Interesting stuff. Before I let you go, let's touch a bit on the oil and gas space. You know, I always like to get your views on that. What is happening? Our refineries, yes, I was expecting that smile. Our refineries, we still expect them to come on stream. Maybe they will help address this shortfall. You see the queues everywhere. I really need your reaction to this. Comedesele, what do you think? Dangote is churning out aviation fuel and diesel at the moment. We expect PMS anytime soon. Also, Port Harcourt refinery, we are still waiting. We hear all the lines are working. Please, bring us up to speed with all of this and how it comes to you.
It is darkest when it's close to dawn. So for me, whatever is happening right now is Nigerians should just be patient. In a short while, we are going to be able to meet our local demands. There are also some teething problems between NNPC and the marketers. That is why we are having these queues. But in a short while, all of that will be resolved. NNPC refinery is going to come up. I think if it doesn't come up it's going to come up likely in the second quarter, before the end of the second quarter. And that will also reduce pressure on Forex and then make it easier for marketers to get product in Naira, not in dollars. And then I think by the end of this year, these queues and these challenges of PMS will be a thing of the past. In medium to long term, I think we also start exporting petroleum products. For queues, scarcity, whatever, I think it looks rosy for Nigerians going forward in the energy sector. But whatever challenges we face right now, things are going to get better.
I like that. I'm also optimistic. I think we can leave it on that note. I thank you so much for your time. Comrade Peter Esele, former president, Trade Union Congress, and also former president, Petroleum and Natural Gas Senior Staff Association of Nigeria. That's PENGASSAN. Do enjoy the rest of your day. We appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me.
Well, there